Hey loves, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Tyla and today's our journal session series episode 12. Today's prompts are all about emotional release and I had a beach day today, so I decided to take you guys out with me and do the journal session here. This is an interactive series where we journal together and I offer you time and space to write out your answers as well as share mine. So if you're interested, grab a pen and a journal and let's begin. So question number 1 is, if I could go back and whisper something to my younger self, what would it be? Majority of the time, we carry trauma, pain, and emotions from our childhood into our adulthood. So it's really great to revisit this to offer healing and love to our inner child, especially if you have inner child wounding. Looking back, there's so many things I wish I could go back and say to my childhood self. Despite what you may have experienced and the emotions that may arise, it's really important to heal your inner child. So this question is a really great way to allow yourself to give your inner child the reassurance that you may have needed, or just to pour love into this part of yourself. It may be a little difficult depending on the type of situations that you may have experienced, but doing this will ultimately help you to overcome that trauma and bring you closure even from situations you may feel you never received it from. What you've experienced as a child doesn't define who you are as a person, but it definitely does play a huge role in who you become. So take the time to offer your inner child whatever they're in need of through your kind words to them. So for me, the answer that I wrote was, if I could go back and whisper something to my younger self, it would be to love myself more and to always put myself first. Okay, so the next question is, I feel, and fill in the blank. Now, since this session is all about emotional release, this question gives you the opportunity to release anything that you're currently feeling. When I do these type of questions for myself when I'm journaling, I usually just write out everything that comes to mind. It doesn't even necessarily have to be something negative, but just write everything that you feel. It could be something about how you feel about something that happened in the day. It could be something that happened last week. It could be something that's upsetting you, something that's making you sad, something that made you happy. Just literally pour out your emotions and your heart. The thing that I like about journaling is that when it comes to pouring out your emotions and just expressing yourself, you can always go back and analyze it. And this kind of just helps you to see and get a clear understanding of where you are mentally and how you're just feeling about certain things, about the pace of your life, or about certain experiences that you may have had. Getting in touch with your emotions also really helps you to develop your EQ and your emotional intelligence. So this will help you to better understand how to work through emotions, how to handle your emotions, how to analyze your emotions from a higher perspective, and also how to detach yourself from emotions so that you're not becoming the emotion. So the answer that I wrote is, I feel happy, joyful, eager, excited, and carefree. I feel content and stable. And so for the next question, it is, I release, and fill in the blank. So with this question, this is basically where you would release everything that's no longer serving you. It can be feelings, it can be people, it can be habits. Every now and then I'll do this type of check-in with myself where I'll write out everything that I want to release. That also helps me to ensure that I'm not holding on to anything unintentionally and that I'm releasing all that no longer serves me. So I definitely want everybody that's watching this video to make sure that you are releasing certain emotions, certain feelings that you may have, and not allowing it to stay trapped within your mind and your subconscious, because a lot of the time when we have certain feelings and emotions and we bury that and we hold that within ourselves, that tends to create dis-ease within our mind and also our body. If you hold in, for example, stress, a lot of stress, it shows in the way that you may have tension, a lot of tension within your shoulders, your neck, your back. It starts aching. You start feeling not yourself and not your best self. And it does get trapped within your body, which is why I also love to move around, do exercise, do yoga, get out in nature. So just make sure that you are tending to whatever emotions that you feel may be burdening you or that you may be feeling like you're holding in. So my answer to this question is, I release all of my worries, fears, and doubts. I now release all that no longer serves me, and I am releasing all blockages that are affecting my growth and abundance. Now on to the next question. So this question is, what emotions am I trying to avoid right now? I always encourage everybody when doing these journal prompts to be completely honest and transparent with your answers. Nobody's going to see your answers. I do share mine, although, I don't go in full depth with some of the questions, but I do that mainly so that you guys can see and understand how I journal, what I talk about, the feelings that come up and arise when I journal. So you guys can get a better understanding of how to journal if you're new to this, or just to get a better understanding of how to interpret your emotions. But for this question, I feel it's really important because a lot of the time we ignore certain feelings and emotions that we have about certain things that's happening in our life, and we try to suppress it. We try to deny it or just push it to the side and distract ourselves so that we don't actually have to deal with the emotion itself, because a lot of the time, depending on the emotion, it can be a lot for us to handle in that present moment. I know we have so many other duties throughout our day. We have work, some school, family, friends, relationships. So a lot of the time when we're going through certain things, we don't necessarily always like to face it up front, and some of those emotions and feelings can be a lot to take on. But pushing it to the back and ignoring it and kind of like saving it for later, or distracting yourself and pretending that that emotion isn't there, is the most unhealthy thing that you can do, and it's going to hurt you in the long run. So I really want to emphasize the fact that it's important to acknowledge those emotions, especially if you feel it's something that just won't go away, a certain feeling that you may have, or something that's bothering you, and you just feel like no matter how much you try to distract yourself, you just keep thinking about that certain thing. It's for a reason. So make sure that you're taking the time to analyze these feelings that come up within yourself so that you can actually understand what it's trying to teach you. Because a lot of the time when we feel a certain way about something, it's really just trying to show us what it is within ourselves that we may need to heal, or that we need to address, so that we can just move forward from the situation. So sweeping it under the rug is not going to get rid of it. It's only going to hide it, but for so long. The answer that I wrote for this question is that the emotions that I tend to avoid currently are emotions and feelings of loneliness. So for me, I'm on a kind of self-healing and improvement journey right now, on my healing journey, and it does get really lonely, especially with me trying to heal and overcome my anxious attachment styles and codependency. It gets really hard, and it's definitely uncomfortable going from being around certain people that you know aren't good for you just because of the fact that you don't want to feel that feeling of loneliness, going from that to going to being isolated every day and not really having many people in your circle and in your environment. So that's a feeling that I tend to avoid, but at the same time, I just make sure that I'm always aware of why I'm feeling that way, so that I can make sure that I'm not reverting back to things that do not serve me, and I can move through those emotions with grace and be patient with myself, knowing that at the end of the day, I am where I am now for a reason, and what's meant to be will come. And last but not least, how do you handle different emotions? So I wanted to end this session off with this question so that I can help you guys to find better and healthier ways to cope with your emotions. Now, everybody handles their emotions way differently, and all of our levels of consciousness are different too. So the key is really just to make sure that when you are feeling an emotion and it arises, especially if it's an uncomfortable one or one that makes you tend to feel like you want to be reactive, that you actually stop to think about why you're feeling that way that you're feeling and become less reactive. A lot of the time when we move based off just emotions, that can get us in some very bad predicaments, because our emotions are not always practical. Our emotions don't always bring about the best possible outcome within a situation when we act on our emotions. So take time to analyze how you handle certain things when they come up. Do you feel like you are a very overreactive person and you tend to lash out? Do you feel like you tend to drown out your emotions and ignore them? Or do you feel like you work through them really well and you actually take time to interpret them and understand your emotions? The answer that I wrote is I usually tend to analyze them from a higher perspective to better understand what I am feeling, so that I don't allow the emotion or feeling to consume me. That's it, my loves. Thank you so much for joining me for this journal session. I really do hope that you enjoyed and that you found these prompts useful. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to stay tuned for more journal sessions. I love you guys so much, and I wish you all the very best.
If you become a chef, not be head of state. But my people then go say I know one die.